Welcome everybody. This is our first show of Sell It to Your Granny. The purpose of this show is to explain technology so simply that your granny will understand. So I'd like to introduce myself and my co-host Karl.
Hi everybody.
Karl, would you like to tell people about yourself?
Not really. So my name is Karl Ussher. Currently working at Google. I should stress that any of my views do not represent the views of Google. I work in technology, work with our technology partners for cloud, and I look after that business for EMEA. I'm formerly Microsoft, where I met this chap here.
Thanks, Karl. And my name is Neil Staunton. I met Karl about 8 years ago at Microsoft. He used to work for me.
You wish, mate.
And
you make a great cup of tea.
So at the moment, my company is a data scientist on demand. Think of us as the Uber for data science, and I'm the growth hacker, which basically means that I'm responsible for sales. So what's going to happen today is we're going to pitch to you as if basically you are our granny. And that doesn't really work, does it? So what we're going to do today is we're going to explain to you a question that's been posed to us by the audience, which is, what is the cloud? And every week we're actually going to talk about different subject matters that you are going to pose to us. And so today we're going to explain to you what the cloud is, and we're going to do it in a pitch form, and we're going to be given 100 seconds. And then afterwards we're going to debate. Are you happy with that, Karl?
That sounds good. My granny's always asking me about the cloud, and I thought, if I'm going to tell her, I might as well tell everybody. So why not record it?
Okay, so I'm going to give you 100 seconds, and I want you to explain to me as if I'm your granny.
Hello, Karl. Hi, Gran.
I want you to explain
I
to
thought
me.
you passed away.
I'm coming back to you through the cloud.
Wow. Welcome back.
And I'm going to give you 100 seconds to explain to me and the audience what is the cloud. Your time goes now.
Hi, Gran. Good to have you back. Great.
Hi.
So you know the way you love watching David Attenborough and all those DVDs we got you for Christmas?
Yeah.
And do you know the way you've watched the same shows over and over again?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'd love to get you infinite number of shows and infinite number of DVDs, but we have limited capacity, and it's always difficult to get to HMV because it's closed down. What we want to propose to you is something called Netflix. Netflix runs in the cloud. You're probably saying, what is the cloud? So with Netflix, using the internet, we can access any of your David Attenborough DVDs, and we don't actually have to purchase them or have them installed or run on your DVD player.
That'd be nice.
Do you know the way your DVD player, you always call us round to fix the remote control and make sure everything works and plug in the TV and make sure that it comes up in the channel? You always have issues with it. So we're saying, Gran, you don't need to worry about all of that. We want to give you your David Attenborough shows on demand when you want them. So you don't need to worry about managing your DVD, buying the actual DVDs of David Attenborough, and on top of that you can watch any show, anytime, any device that you have, the mobile, that iPad we bought you, and you can get different shows as well. So how does that sound, Gran?
10 seconds left, Karl. I'm busy.
Okay, so that's the idea. You have access to as much as you want without having to manage all the technical stuff with the DVD player. You just simply plug into this button here for Netflix and you get all the shows.
Okay, that's not a bad pitch. I actually think I can do better.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
Okay, I'll go for it. Okay, so I'm going to time it. Okay.
Hi, Neil.
Hi. So, this is the cloud.
Where?
The thing about the cloud, what's unique about the cloud is its delivery mechanism. Okay. So
what's the mechanism?
I won't tell you that. I'll come back to that in a moment. And don't just interrupt me, Granny.
Okay.
So the cloud is effectively the internet, and the way it delivers
What's the internet?
digital. The way it delivers digital products. So imagine the cloud is an energy source, and let me give you an analogy. Before, you, Granny, you used to use coal and wood in your house, and the problem with using coal and wood in your house is you or Grandpa used to go and physically go and get the coal and the wood, bring it into the house.
We're not that old.
And light it, and then it was unevenly distributed and inefficient. Then along came the grid, the national grid. They delivered energy into your house on demand as a service. You did not need to be able to go out and do anything about it, and the actual distribution of energy was exact temperature. So think of that in the same way sat-nav used to come as software, and now
Sorry, what's the sat-nav got to do with the logs?
Why are you interrupting me when I'm explaining my pitch?
Okay, go ahead. Sorry,
Okay.
you just went on the sat-navs. I got confused.
So let me explain that. What happened with energy, the delivery energy, was through the delivery mechanism. You used to go out and get the energy and bring it to your house, and it was inefficient.
That makes sense.
When it was in the house. And now the energy is delivered to you as a service, and it comes into your house by someone else managing all of that, all the way into your house. So the same way that you'd use digital products. Imagine a few years ago you used sat-nav, which was you'd have to download software. You'd be given a disk, you'd give me software, you'd put that into some sort of sat-nav device. But what would happen is it would go out of date because you'd have new roads built, new faster routes, No, give me more time. I want more time because I think
Dude, that's 2 minutes.
No, this is a good explanation.
What's a sat-nav?
You know what a sat-nav is, Granny, because you've used it when you were driving because you didn't know how to get places because you forgot. Right, so let me finish. The whole point is when you used to use software and hardware for sat-nav.
What's hardware?
You used that to manage.
Granny's not going to understand what hardware is.
Well, we could just keep on asking, like, what is.
I get your point.
Okay.
I think Granny would. I think she'd get it.
Okay.
She'd be like, "What's a sat nav? What's software? And what's hardware?" But I understand
It's
the analogy around electricity distribution and not having to go out and get it yourself, and now you can get it on demand. That makes sense.
So here's the thing.
I'll try that with my granny.
So the cloud manages all of the maintenance and all those things. They're just going to give it to you.
Okay, this is the longest 2 minutes ever.
Right. Well, I'm going to have to practice my pitch next time to be more succinct.
Granny is already asleep.
Okay, but comparing mine to yours in terms of using the analogy of to say energy, you'd have to go and get it, and now energy is delivered into your house. In the same way, you'd have to go and buy software and stuff, but now all of those digital products is delivered into your house via the streaming of the internet or a web browser. That is the cloud.
So let's debate it. I think there's a lot of buzzwords there. I think it might confuse people. You know, as Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And his idea was to explain it to an 8-year-old or 6-year-old so that they could understand it. I think today's 6-year-olds get it already because they grow up in technology. So Granny is always a good test case, good litmus test for explaining these things. You know, I've heard an analogy around a library. So at home you've got your bookshelf, and then you have access to any books that you've purchased that exist in your bookshelf. You go to a library, you've got access to so many more. But now through the internet with cloud, you have almost infinite access to any book on demand, and you don't have to purchase You don't have to go to the store to purchase them. You don't have to manage them. They don't get old, etc. You just download them onto your Kindle or whatever device. So I could say to my gran, hey gran, you know the way we bought you a book last year and you read that in 1 week and you're bored? Well, what if we got you a device that connects to, quote unquote, the cloud and gives you access to infinite amounts of books that you search through and get on demand? You don't need to worry about where they are and how they're managed, but you just plug into them via this device called a Kindle or whatever you're using.
But didn't you used to be able to use the internet before the cloud was a buzzword, and you were able to access books and DVDs?
Yeah, but if you think about the internet effectively is the cloud. It's been rebranded.
Why is it being rebranded? What change happened for it to be rebranded?
I don't know. I think it happened in the last about 5 or 6 years. It became a buzzword. I think Apple.
You don't know what are we here for? If you don't know.
Okay, I'll tell you my view. So, if you've ever done a technical diagram on a whiteboarding session with a technical group, you'll have to explain. Okay, this is the internet. This is your servers. This is your data center.
Let's not get technical.
Okay, well, I'm talking about. We've already done Granny. To make it simple, people often draw a cloud because the alternative is a huge network of interconnected nodes. So to make it simple, you draw a cloud, and similar to a cloud is made up of lots of H2O droplets that come together. They look like a single entity, but individually there's lots of molecules. And if you think about the cloud, that's effectively what it is. It's a collection of many machines and many resources that look like this single entity. Now, from an end user perspective, they just see a cloud. They don't need to worry about what is contained and what's in there. They just know it's over there. It's one central entity. So I think, Apple had a big part to play in defining this term cloud with their iCloud backup device for iPhones. But I think it's just a simple way, a euphemistic way to explain what is effectively a network of computing resources that act as a single entity.
So why now?
I think, good question. I think there's a proliferation of broadband. Pretty much everybody in the Western world has access to broadband and really fast speeds. Before we had a modem, many listeners probably don't even know what a modem is, and when you dialed it up to your phone coaxial cable, it sounded like a drum and bass song, and that was really slow and ineffective. But now we're at a stage where there's so much broadband. Codecs have been improved as well, which is compression devices, that it makes it easy for you to connect to resources that are actually maybe in a different country, a different location.
What are you talking
over
about?
The internet?
What are you talking about?
Well, you stole my granny or what?
No, but it doesn't need to be. I don't know what you're talking about. What's a codex?
So a codec is a compression algorithm that says original file that is 1 gig can be compressed down to 1/10 of that, 1/20th of that.
So it's becoming efficient.
So it makes it more efficient. So you're sending less data.
So is this to do with now the infrastructure makes basically more capable for us to be able to save things to the cloud and to download things to our devices much easier?
Yeah, because your bottleneck is going to be your broadband capacity, right? Because you could have things
as in wireless, that I'm on my phone, I'm walking through the streets.
Yeah. 3G has enabled this as well. Before with 2G, if you ever go into 2G when your signal's bad, you'll realize you can't play your YouTube videos. All of those things are in a cloud, a data center that's maybe in the US, maybe in the UK, but you need to stream that over a pipe. That pipe needs to be wide enough to take the data at a fast rate. So I think that has had a big help, the proliferation of fiber as well, the fact that devices, we've got smartphones, pretty much everybody has smartphones, and we can start connecting to those resources from the likes of Google and Apple.
So what's 4G?
4G, it's just G stands for generation, right? So the first generation, second generation, 2G, third generation.
Are you the first generation and am I the fourth generation?
Well, if you mean by more immature, fourth generation, yeah, it makes sense.
I'm thinking about the evolution.
So I guess it's 4G is the next evolution, and it enables more data to be sent across the same amount of pipe.
So what's 5G?
I don't know. Probably an evolution of that. I don't know. It's not my background.
Okay. Well, so what is good, what is bad about the cloud in terms of our like daily lives, and maybe ask the question about we understand we can probably consume more, but what is bad about the cloud? Is it that there's less jobs around, or are they taking jobs, or are they making us upskill into becoming more a skilled workforce?
Yeah, I guess you can look at it from different angles, right? So from a consumer perspective, now you have access to a wider array of, let's take the Netflix example. With the cloud, you have access to a wide array of movies or TV shows, as opposed to before the cloud when you just had your DVD collection, or you go down to Chartbusters and whatever they had in there.
Chartbusters.
Is that what Blockbuster? Chartbuster? Or whatever that's Blockbusters and HMV.
So Blockbusters is going to be a really good example of how they own the market. They thought that they were the leaders, and then they didn't innovate, and then their business crashed and burned.
I think that's a great example. They're the classical business case, aren't they? They had the market leadership. They were ahead of the curve.
So they're a retailer in every town, where you as an individual had to go to Blockbuster to get to choose the films, and sometimes those good films were out.
Yeah.
And then you could choose another film, and then you go home, but then you'd have to deliver that film back. And what would happen if you didn't deliver the film back the next day? What would happen, Karl?
You get a fine. You get a letter. Yeah, I've had a few of them.
How many fines have you had?
I think I still have a DVD that I need to drop back. Fortunately, they don't exist.
Someone's bought the debt. You probably owe them about 10 grand.
Yeah, probably. It's accruing every day. It's a terrible DVD as well. Probably VHS.
Okay, so and what happened from Blockbuster to Netflix? What was the key differentiator from a consumer perspective? Why did they win? Why did Netflix win? Why
so it's
did
interesting
Amazon win?
because didn't Netflix start off by posting? So what would happen is you'd sign up.
That was Love Film.
That was Love Film as well in the UK. You'd sign up and then they'd post you a DVD, and then you'd watch it and then you'd pass it back. So their value proposition.
You'd never get fined until you sent the film back. It's
True.
almost like the subscription would continue paying for it as long as you didn't send the film back.
Yeah. And their kind of value proposition was, listen, we're going to do the same as Blockbuster, Chartbuster, whatever it's called, but we'll improve the experience. You don't need to leave your house. You're not limited by the selection in the store. You just post and request what you need. But they were very forward thinking because they recognized that there was a future. There was a cloud future. And then they brought customers on this journey whereby if they were a member of this postal service they offered, you could also get access to their online database or repository of DVDs.
Okay.
And that was the start really of the cloud revolution around video on demand.
So that's one area, and so this is a two-part question. How have our lives been changed as a result of the cloud, not just videos?
I keep on going to videos, don't I?
Keep on going to videos. One example.
Well, I can think of another example. I think you touched on it earlier with the electricity analogy. You know, there used to be a time when if you wanted electricity back 200 years ago, maybe 100 years ago in some parts of Ireland, you needed to have a generator, or you need to go down and get some firewood in order to generate heating for the home. And if you were running a business, you'd need to have a generator in order to keep the lights on and keep production going. It's crazy if you think about it. Imagine every business today who needed to power their store or factory would need to have their own generator. Just crazy. So there was a big movement from government and Edison's corporation in the US to standardize and build this grid. And this was a grid that everybody could plug into. So previously you needed a capital expenditure. You needed to have the capital and the money to buy your own generator. You needed someone who knew how to operate it. You need to keep it running with diesel, which was very bad for the environment and whatnot. And only then could you keep your store running. And often this broke down and there was issues. But then when the electricity grid became prevalent, people simply plugged in to this technology, this grid, and had electricity on demand. Kind of like video on demand. You demand it and you pay for only what you consume. So it really revolutionized and meant that people didn't need that capital infrastructure in order to start a business. And it really changed everybody's lives. So I think that's a great analogy, and I think that's what's happening in the cloud today.
In terms of business? In terms of how businesses can be businesses themselves?
Yeah, so if you think about it, I want to set up if you rewind about 5 years, if you wanted to create a company, and I think
like a tech company,
let's say Farmville, the guys who did that, they actually created their own data center, and that burned up so much of their capital. They spent so much money,
a few million,
tens of millions, in order to build their own data centers because they felt they needed to do that.
There's Zynga Games.
Zynga Games, exactly. Now that's the equivalent of building your own generator in order to power your store. Where if you look at companies like Snapchat, a great example, what they've done is from the start they've only had a few developers, and they said rather than us spending all that money and hiring all these people to manage a data center, we'll just use Google's. And they're a great example of a company who for a long time they had only 7 developers and the CEO, and they were serving millions of people every day. They never invested in a data center. They didn't need to because they plugged into a utility and paid for only what they consumed. You look at Spotify, they're moving away from having their own data centers and realizing we don't need to manage this. Why would we manage our own electricity source or computing resource when we can just rent it from somebody else? And I think that's changing the game for companies. And then maybe you want to touch on how do you think that affects employees?
Well, I feel like you've been talking for ages.
I better stop.
Do you need some water? I think the most importantly is that all of the businesses and entrepreneurs who previously wanted to create a business were limited by or prevented by not having the money or the capability or time to invest in their own infrastructure. And if they want to deliver a digital service, maybe it's a kind of credit referencing service because they know how to evaluate individuals or consumers in different ways. Maybe it's they want to sell kind of a magazine subscription, or maybe they want to create another type of like fantasy football. All of these things can actually be delivered through the web, and they don't have to invest in their like a factory or building all of this infrastructure. So I think the most important thing in the cloud, it is actually enabling people to start up a business with just an idea, and an idea themselves and their laptops, which that was never been able to do.
Yeah. So you're right, I completely agree. And Google, we talk about failing fast. It's okay if you get it wrong a few times when you don't have to pay for a big data center and hire lots of people in order to try that out. So today with cloud computing, you can just pay a couple of dollars to try out an idea, build a website. Are we in
America?
Well, anyway,
couple of
pounds, punts, yeah, euro, whatever your Turkish lira, whatever your currency is, and just try it out and see if things work. Because the cost of entry and the barriers to entry are extremely low. In terms of users, I think users have access to a wider array of new technologies. They have access to more resources all through their mobile phone or their desktop connected to this in this new cloud world. Right, before you were limited to whatever was on your desktop before the internet and before effective broadband, you were limited to only those things you had stored or downloaded, but now everything is on demand. So I think it's really changing the game.
So you can actually access all of these things, not what's basically limited to your laptop and the applications on your laptop. It is more to do with actually there's infinite services on the internet which will only use, and you'll only use bits of it, which basically you can choose to support your business. So that's fine. Go on.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think Amazon describe it very well because they talk about the long tail. So there's so many different people that are interested in so many different things. So typically, if you have a bookstore, you'll sell what's called a short head. So you'll sell the top 10 best-selling books. If you go to an airport, you see this. It's like the top 20 or the top 10 if it's a small store. That's all they sell.
Yeah.
But with the power of online, the internet really, and the cloud, you can have infinite numbers of different types of books.
It's called the infinite aisle.
The infinite aisle, exactly. So they don't need to focus on selling the top 10 Amazon, for instance. They can sell any different types of books for any different type of interest, because they've this idea of infinite, quote unquote, resources.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
No, I'm learning. Afterwards, can you teach me a little bit more?
Yeah, whatever.
So I want to go for and ask you something about the future. I know you like to think yourself as a bit of a futurologist.
What does that even mean? Growth hacker.
Hey. So the question is, what's going to happen in the next 5 years?
Yeah, it's a really good question. If I could see the future, I'd probably make some bets, but unfortunately, I can't. But I think what we're definitely seeing today is more and more people, more and more enterprises are realizing they don't want to manage these server resources, these computing resources themselves in-house. There is access to a public cloud, so they'll go to companies like Google, like Amazon, like Ussher, who offer cloud computing services and resources like big data analytics, virtual machines or servers in the cloud. Rather than having that internally and managing that internally, they'll be going to more companies to do that. Like
I think that's, I can understand that, but actually I think it's more fundamental than that. I think the next 5 years is, one, everyone believes that they can actually start up a business. This is from an entrepreneurial perspective.
Yeah.
2, they'll have access to more services. 3, they'll get access to more services at a cheaper rate.
Mm-hmm.
And this all kind of aligns with Google's biggest worry, is that actually their biggest worry is not Microsoft or Amazon or Facebook. It's that one man, one woman band in a bedroom creating the next big thing. That actually all you do now need is an idea. So
that is an interesting
more
idea.
ideas, the more people that believe in themselves, the more people that realize that they can create a service that consumers want to buy, and basically everyone can become a master of their own destiny by going onto the web, creating a product like a podcast, like a digital product, like some sort of anything. They actually can create and serve a certain niche, and we all will be able to be more independent and less reliant on employment by big organizations.
I think you're right. I think there's definitely lower barriers, as said. You know, people are more empowered. They need less capital to try things out because they can get all the resources that a big company can get on demand for the same price, maybe even cheaper. So I think it's going to be the case of, it's not going to be the big companies that beat the small. I think it's going to be the nimble and the agile that beat the slow.
Which is typically the smaller size companies.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. We had a meeting there last week, and we were talking about some of the potential threats to Google. It was just kind of a brainstorming exercise. We weren't part of the leadership team making any decisions. We were just brainstorming. But somebody made the point that with Google Cloud Platform and more of these,
are you plugging Google Cloud Platform?
I'm not plugging it. No.
Okay. Can it be Amazon Web Services?
Okay, whatever. With cloud, you know, those companies who you mentioned who might be the nimble ones and agile ones, maybe they build on top of Google's cloud or Amazon's cloud, so they're going to be less of a threat because as they succeed, those cloud companies make money. Snapchat's a great example. They could be seen as a threat to younger users, etc. But they run on our platform, so we support them 110%. Their success is our success.
Okay. So are these views your own, Karl?
These are mine. These are not the views of Google Inc. Incorporated.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So there's a few other things that we might want to talk about, like what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities that we present, which we kind of understood, what are the challenges. But I think the one question that we kind of haven't covered is like, what are the weaknesses of the cloud?
Yeah.
Is it its density?
I don't know. I think it might be. I think some of the weaknesses are perceived rather than trim. I think if you look at some of the resistance to cloud is, I don't think it's secure. Oh well, I'm giving my data to somebody else, and people are going to access it. The reality is, the cloud companies have teams of engineers whose job is to find vulnerabilities and ensure the data is secure. In your data center, in your server room, you're not going to have that level of experience around security.
So you've effectively outsourced the security
to the best in the world.
To the best in the world, okay.
Exactly.
So actually, that is a strength rather than a weakness.
Yeah, but it's perceived as a weakness.
That's very well done that you've twisted a weakness into a strength. So
I always do that in my interview
when
questions.
you went for an interview and they said, what is your weakness? Did you tell them
I'm so bad at being really good. I'm just such an attention. I work too hard.
You're so bad at being good.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds terrible.
Tell me your weakness. I work too hard. I'm a perfectionist.
How did you get a job in Google?
I don't know.
I reckon it was your Google, your Irish charm.
Yeah,
but clearly not, because you haven't got any.
Good one. Back to the topic at hand.
Yeah. Okay, is there another weakness of the cloud?
Weakness of the cloud. I think, for many enterprises we're talking about who've invested in their own data centers, they have their data center in one location, and then the cloud or the cloud access point might be in a different country or far away from them, and it's moving that data. How do you move that data over to the cloud so you can keep it there, because you want that close to where analytics and applications will be run.
So it's the transition.
It's that transitioning, it's moving the data. So I think what we'll see in the future is probably this hybrid model where you'll have some data on premise.
Well, that's what Google said.
And some
Google said, and Amazon said that we think that we think we got it wrong, and we think Microsoft got it right, because they have got more of a hybrid model of somewhere where they keep the data within the company on the premises, and then some of the data is in the cloud.
You read that in an article that came out yesterday, didn't you?
I did.
I read that as well. I don't know whether Google actually said that, but Microsoft, you're right. They do have an advantage in that they have a strong presence in the server room, and they can create a bridging mechanism.
Okay.
Where applications are run in the server room can also bridge to Azure. And I think that's a smart approach.
Okay, very good. So we've been through the strengths. I don't know if you want to bring up any more weaknesses, opportunities we get, the challenges.
I think it's around security, isn't it? I think people and moving data.
Well, yeah, but like in terms of the dangers, the thing is that there are these big Goliath machines with all of this data on us, and are we now dependent on the cloud for our lives?
No, that sounds like something out of Terminator.
Well, no, but then how would you, if you're used to using your calendar to manage and remind you of all of your appointments, and you're in the middle of London and you're going to a meeting and you're reliant on your your maps to get you there, and then you're reliant on your email to communicate, and all of these things, I suppose that's where we're reliant on all of those things.
But they're supporting services, right?
Yeah.
But it's like driving your car, you're reliant on that to get from A to B. If it breaks down, it breaks down.
Good point. So then what are the dangers? Are there any dangers?
Dangers? Well, we've seen some examples of data breaches, haven't we? Yeah. Fortunately none on the main cloud providers, but what was that site, Ashley Madison, where people were having affairs and all the email addresses and logins got out?
Well, so Ashley Madison is that site where
You've
sign
been there,
up.
right?
No, definitely not. It's a site where you sign up to have an affair.
Crazy, yeah.
Right? So they had supposedly 5 million users,
Wow.
And what happened was some hackers hacked into the and the other thing actually is that they're about to go onto the stock market. They're about to
they're pre-IPO.
They're going to do an IPO. An IPO being an initial public offering, so they're going to launch on the stock exchange. But they realised that it was a complete a business basically that had no morals and had completely fraudulently created all of this information, this kind of fake it to make it. So they thought
they weren't real accounts then.
So there was about they reckon they're out of all those 5 million accounts, only 2 million accounts were actually live.
What were the rest? Bots?
Whatever, I don't know. So the hacker found out that their created accounts were hacked in because he didn't like the whole principle of basically this infidelity. And then the other thing was, so he hacked in, and then he released all of the email addresses and all of the names of all the people that signed up to ashleymadison.com.
Here's an interesting thing. They did by company. There's a chart out there. I Google it, and it says the highest number of cheaters on Ashley Madison per company.
And the top ones were...
We can't talk about that. We get sued.
Well,
0 from Google, which is impressive.
Yeah, that's because they deleted themselves. I heard it was mainly banks.
Yeah.
And then the editor of The Economist tweeted that there is no... he was pleased to hear that there was no people with economist.com email addresses. Okay, why did we talk about that?
I don't know. Data breach.
Why did you talk about that?
We talked about data breach. It is a challenge perceived in people's mind. We saw the iCloud hacking as well, and the data breach there.
And but the point is that actually it's probably safer in the cloud than on your own laptop, because it's way easier for someone to hack into your laptop.
Exactly. What happens if you lose your laptop? It doesn't have a password protection. What happens if you lose a USB key? You know, we've had examples of that.
Okay.
So if you keep it in a secure location and you have these security engineers that manage this as a profession, I think it's more secure. But there has been some examples, you know, where website administrators have used silly passwords.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, or their pet's name or something like that. So yeah, these can be avoided. These haven't been brute force attacks where they try and like break in. Sorry, they have been brute force attacks where they guess the password. Anyway, yeah, so that's some of the perceived challenges and weaknesses.
So just talking about the companies, the major companies that are actually kind of supporting the cloud, not the services that benefit from delivery, but more actually of the cloud providers.
Yeah.
Who would they be?
So
let me tell you. Let me. Would one of them
Go
be Google?
Oh, well done, Neil.
Oh, well, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, just so you don't have to say it. So, who are the others?
You tell me then.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
Where we met, fondly.
Mm-hmm. Not Ashley Madison.
We met on Ashley Madison. I was disappointed when I saw your face.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Especially from your mum.
Yes.
So there's Microsoft, there's Amazon, and then there's obviously Google, and then I think there's another one called Oracle, IBM, and then a few others.
Well, I think Oracle are entering into the space. IBM have an offering, software.
Okay.
Microsoft have Azure, and Google have Google Cloud Platform.
Okay.
So they're major players, but you also have the likes of Rackspace who've been doing it for a while, but I think they're divesting because they realise we don't have these deep pockets that the likes of Google, Microsoft and Amazon have.
Oh, what about Apple?
No, they don't have an enterprise offering. I guess they have iCloud, but they use these cloud providers, don't they?
I thought they were creating an enterprise, kind of an Apple for work type thing.
I think they tried that, but didn't get off the ground. Okay. Yeah.
And
I reckon we'll see consolidation over time, right? There's going to be less providers because it's an expensive game. You know, you look at the amount of money Google has spent on R&D and infrastructure. You're talking billions. We're not talking millions or hundreds of millions. We're talking billions in 1 year. So you can watch all your cat videos.
5 billion?
I don't know. I can't. Even if I did, I couldn't disclose. But it's in billions.
Okay. And not just the companies, but are there any certain people that stand out to you that people should be listening to about the cloud and the way forward and how it's changing the world from a business perspective, but from a consumer perspective?
Yeah, good question. I think Jeff Bezos, he really led the enterprise cloud movement with Amazon
Chief
Web
exec.
Services. Yeah,
Right.
chief exec of Amazon. He's been in the game for a while. He kind of sailed Amazon through the rough, turbulent times of the first .com crash.
Right, I read his
So he's
book.
impressive guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
What do you think of him?
Well, he's very smart. He was very determined, and he had this vision whereby he would build this infrastructure, but for the first 15 years of his business, he didn't make any profits. He put it all back into his business, and then convinced investors that he was doing the right kind of strategy. And he's done that, and he's built the infrastructure, and now they're one of the most valuable companies in the world, because now they don't need to reinvest back in their business, and it's actually now all profits. They are reinvested back in their business, but now it's actually all profits. And so he became one of those companies that actually was a major player by convincing people that this was a 15-20 year plan. And what's interesting about Jeff and Jobs is that they're both orphans. Did you know that?
Yes, I did. So they probably had to work hard to prove it themselves, and so the parents wouldn't give them back.
Because why?
So the parents wouldn't give them back.
I don't know if that's politically correct.
Oh,
Okay, let's hope that we can edit that.
yeah, we can take that out.
Okay, so who else
jest.
would be? Of course, who else would be thought leaders in this area?
I think Mark Benioff, CEO of Salesforce,
Right.
he built the company Salesforce after leaving Oracle. At the time, CRM systems were pretty much
CRM?
owned. Customer relationship management. Every company needs to understand who they're selling to, who they can sell to next, when the
Yeah.
contract's expiring, all that kind of stuff. But they used to run on their own data center. But he thought, well, why are they installing this software and managing it themselves? Like this generator analogy. Don't build it yourself, don't manage it yourself, host it. So he had this offering called Salesforce.com that says, you just log in here, tell us the accounts that you need, and we'll manage all the back end for you. And you get the same experience, and even better experience, because as they did development, they did it for everybody. So you share the development innovation with everybody. Something called kind of multi-tenancy that you get with the cloud. And he was really a forward-looking thinker back in 1999.
He was the first software as a service company to become a £1 billion valuation. Did
That's
you know
right.
that?
We actually didn't talk about that. The fact that within cloud you've got infrastructure as a service, IaaS,
Right.
software as a service, and then platform as a service.
Do you want to explain them?
Yeah, I think it's
Or-
useful. We probably need to touch on it, right?
Okay.
So
Make-
infrastructure
make
as a
it
service.
interesting.
I always do, mate.
You're boring me.
Yeah, infrastructure as a service is where you take computing resources like what you'd have on a server. So you have a virtual machine, and then you can set the RAM, you can set the disk, you can set all
Come
those,
on.
the operating system, etc. So you can get that on demand, so you can have as many virtual machines as you want. The more interesting piece is probably what you probably recognize more with cloud, and that's software as a service. So that's an actual application that lives in the cloud. Classic example is Gmail.
Okay.
You don't need to have Outlook running on your desktop. You actually use something that lives in the cloud, which is Gmail, and that's what Salesforce.com was.
So
Software as a service.
Give me more examples of those software as a service services
Dropbox.
that consumers would use. Okay.
Dropbox people will use,
Okay.
so they don't need to worry about, I need a server to store all my images.
Okay.
Don't even think about the server. That's all
Or your
abstracted.
documents
Or your document.
videos.
You just use an interface
Okay.
that happens to live in the cloud. So it runs on top of a machine, which is
Okay.
infrastructure
Okay.
on the cloud. And then the other is platform as a service. So this is a little bit more technical. It's when companies develop using a platform or a paradigm, and they develop applications on that paradigm. So with Salesforce, they have something called force.com,
Right.
and then it's a set of basically a paradigm for developing. Google has App Engine, Microsoft has Azure.net. I don't know.
Well, I don't think the people will actually understand infrastructure as a service or platform as a service as much. I think it's going to be more about software as a service, because they in their daily lives know that they used to have something downloaded to their laptop.
Yeah.
They used to buy software in a disk, but now they don't have software in a disk. They just go to the App Store or the Android Play Store and they download an application straight onto.
You don't even need to download it, right? Because you download it, that software. You go to gmail.com and you got your Gmail software as a service, or you go to salesforce.com and you log in.
If you're on your laptop, yes, but if you're on your mobile device, the application is downloaded, but a lot of the information is still streams through the web, right?
Yeah,
it's like a hybrid. Some information's stored, but
so you
most
have
of
what's
the
called
exchange.
a thick client that runs on your phone.
Okay, well, that sounds a bit technical.
Yeah, whatever. You're thick. You're a thick client.
I'm not your client.
Yeah. Good one. Well, you didn't deny the thick part. Yeah, good man.
I'm self-deprecating.
Yeah, best form of humour. So,
okay.
So I think we covered a lot today. Do I have any favourite quotes? There was one I heard recently.
Can you give me a quote?
Can I give you a quote? Oh yeah, I had a stab at one earlier.
Okay.
So, what did I say? Can't remember. Yeah. So, the centralization of computing resources and making them available as a service on demand does mean, and I think you touched on this earlier, does mean less people employed in data centers and server rooms. But these employees can now be reskilled to work on new, higher value tasks. So every cloud
has a silver lining.
Yeah, you don't need to finish that. It's like every cloud.
Oh, right. Sorry. Did they need to finish it for me?
Whatever, mate.
Okay. I don't think that's very concise in terms of a quote. And you read it off.
Okay, you give me one.
Well, I think everyone should realise that all of the information that they and digital services they're using comes to them as a service. So now they don't have to go and get it. It comes to them. Okay? So it's basically simple. And if we make it simple,
comes to them, really?
Well, you've got on your phone, you've got on your laptop, it's there. You don't have to manage all of the kind of software on your laptop.
Yeah, but you still need to go to it, right?
Yeah, but it's there.
Unless you've got some virus, though.
Hold on. If you leave your browser open, it's just there. You don't have to do anything. You just have to look. Okay? What to agree?
Okay.
Anyway, that was the quote.
Let's go with that. That was a long quote.
Next week, I'm going to come up with a better quote.
Don't quote me on that.
Right.
So, should we have a shot at pitching to the granny again? Because we've talked about a few things, and I guess the brain is starting to think in a different way.
Okay.
I went first last time.
Okay. So, I'm going to go. You're going to give me
Hi, Neil.
30 seconds to explain what the cloud is.
Okay.
The cloud is... What it is a delivery mechanism. So, rather than you basically using software on your computer to consume digital products, that service is delivered through a web browser, and you don't have to manage it. So it just means that you're able to consume digital products and more of them at a cheaper rate.
Wow, your granny must be very technically savvy. But I think you nailed all the key points there, definitely.
Okay.
My granny isn't that savvy.
Go on then.
Hi, Gran. Oh yeah. So, why don't you have a generator in the house to power the electricity?
Because I can't afford one.
I probably know. It's probably because why the hell would you have a generator when you can just turn on the switch and you've got light? Well, there's something called the cloud. And instead of you having to buy a server and some software to run your email client, you know the way you like to send those emails? Yeah? Now you can go to gmail.com and all of that is taken care of by another company. You just have to go there on the browser.
Okay.
You don't need to worry about any of the technology in order to get the benefit.
Okay. I think that was a much better explanation than mine. And I think in summary, effectively the cloud is supposedly the internet, but technically it's the way that we to get delivered products. We used to manage some of that, and therefore the hassle and the pain and the cost. Now it's managed by someone else, and they've taken out the hassle, the pain, and the cost, and therefore we can access it and through the internet, and we can access more of it.
Yeah, as computing resources, which is effectively infrastructure as a service, or software resources, which is what we're probably most familiar with, the likes of Gmail, Dropbox, Salesforce, etc.
Okay, I think I feel a little bit more learned. Do you?
Yeah, me.
Did
definitely.
I educate you today?
Yes, thank you, mate.
Okay,
Always.
very good. Okay,
and it was fun as well, I think.
Well, for you. So, this is really the end of the show, and we're going to be here on a weekly basis. So this first show is called "What is the Cloud?" and next week's show is going to be based on the questions that you ask us, and the people who ask and agree with those questions. We'll pick the most popular. So please let us know what questions you want answered. So simply that your granny will understand. And our Facebook page is
Facebook.com/sell it to your granny, and then the website is www.sellittoyourgranny.com. So please try some of these analogies that we gave you. Try it with your gran. Let us know how that went, whether she understood or not. And we'd love to hear your feedback and suggestions for the next show.
Did you forget about Twitter?
Oh, we got a tweeter.
Yeah, and it's at sell it to your granny. No, it's not. It's at sell it to gran. No, it's at sell it to granny.
At sell it to granny. Okay.
Okay. So
just go to the website. You'll find it there. www.sellittoyourgranny.com.
Okay. So thank you very much, Karl.
Thank you, Neil. It's always a pleasure.
And I suppose we'll see you next week.
Yeah, or listen to us at least. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.